Hey, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm super excited to have another visionary breakthrough session. So, Liz Farah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Emma. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm super pumped. It's going to be so much fun. And we are just about to get your human design chart up. But for those that are just listening, do you want to just give an overview of your chart, type, authority, profile, incarnation cross?
Okay, I am Manifestor 6'2". I am emotional authority. Incarnation cross is left angle upheaval, gates 17, 18, 38, 39. Still very new to the deeper levels of human design, but really trying to get into it and learning more about it, particularly to help me in business and learning more about myself. That's for sure.
I love that. And you know what? It's that the beautiful thing about human design is sometimes it's just the little things, like even just understanding that you're a manifester or what your profile is can be so much just to leapfrog you forward. So super excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get your chart up and then we are going to dive in. So Liz, tell me, what specifically would you like me to focus on today?
I think this year has been a really big year for me, particularly because I have made a really big decision in starting my own business. And I've been a high school teacher for 15 years. So this is going out on my own and building something that is really where my purpose is headed. Um, but I guess a lot of that brings challenges because I'm trying to figure it out as I go, and very much bringing myself back to the one step at a time thing. And lots of things have unfolded this year, and I've been able to do a lot of work with myself, and that's what I want to support other people, particularly young people, in as well. But I guess it's just always that little niggling part of yourself as to what's the next thing, when's this going to grow, what's happening, what do you do next, when I'm so used to the structure of a schooling system that I've been in my whole career, and now this is everything I've ever wanted in terms of freedom and self-expression and connection. It's so purpose driven and aligned to who I am, but it's just those shadows that pop up all the time which make you question everything.
Yeah, and I love what you said because there's so much really important stuff straight off the bat. So, number one, you've been in the education system, and as a manifester, that is not your natural habitat.
Hmm.
Like at the end of the day, you need to have the freedom to go where you want, when you have the energy for it, and the freedom to go, nah, don't care when you don't. So, even from a real macro level, being in the education system and then not being in it is going to put your conditioning, your identity, your belief systems into free fall. And often when our identity changes so significantly, this is when we end up having things like a midlife crisis,
Hmm.
because who we were, almost yesterday is not who we are today. And then our subconscious mind goes into free fall and kind of freaks out. Now, you've got this added layer that you've been operating in a system that is the polar opposite of the way that your energy works anyway. So, as much as you've been set free, your energy's like, yeah, I've got this. Your higher self's like, sweet, this is going to be awesome. Your heart's like, yep, let's go. You've got a defined G center. It's like, I know where we're going. But you do have an undefined head and ajna. So there's probably a lot of, overthinking. There's a lot of messiness. There's uncertainty. Like the mental energy is probably the thing that's, getting in your way the most. Does that feel like it
Absolutely.
resonates?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So one of the big things to understand, and then I want to go to your 6-2 profile because that's a big piece as well. But you want to understand that thinking specifically isn't actually like your superpower. What your superpower is to have the ultimate flex when it comes to thinking. Like, you have the ability to think outside the box. Depending on who you're around, you're going to think differently. Depending on the environment, you're going to think differently. You are going to be more susceptible to other people's beliefs, to their identities, like to their, at least their thinking identity, their constructed subconscious identity. So when it comes to your thinking, as much as it's a superpower because you can flex with whoever's in the room, what you really want to understand is this journey is so much about getting down into the body for you, because what is super important is that you start to connect to the creative urge that is the manifestor's guidance. Okay. So that creative urge, and we're going to have our nuances depending on, from one individual to another, but it's something along the lines of, all of a sudden you have the energy to lift a car. You have so much strength and energy, and you just want to dive into whatever that thing is. Now, that's the creative urge. That's the thing that's actually guiding you. That's initiating. It's your strategy of initiation, and then that also that tells you it's time to inform. Okay, I have all this energy. I want to play over here. So it's really important to get back in the body, to know how that feels, to be able to consciously identify it. And in a perfect world, we can drop everything and follow that creative urge. So the first question I suppose I have for you is, do you feel you have a good relationship? Like, that creative urge, and can you follow it most of the time?
I think having that awareness of the manifestor energy has been huge in the way that I support myself in how I operate, because I think being a mum, I still teach 2 days. In the past, I very much would have just, even though that urge was really there, I probably would have just pushed it aside a little bit more. But an example of this was a couple of weeks ago. It was World Kindness Day. And once I realized that was coming up, and that's pretty much the whole crux of my business, is to be kinder to your mind. I even have a podcast called Mind Kind. And I was like 100 miles an hour. I was messaging people, asking them to give some videos of them talking about kindness. I ended up going into my kids' daycare. Then we ended up just on the whim doing a podcast with the 5-year-olds about what kindness means to them. And that all came from this spark and that creative energy, and even using that language with my husband, saying no, I really know that I have to do this. I really have to spend some time on this tonight, helps understanding that that's how I operate. But I think in other times when maybe there isn't that so much, there's that expectation that I need to be doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting about what you just said, you said there's an expectation I need to be doing something. And as much as that is very conditioned thinking, there's a couple of players in your chart that might be kind of leaning you towards that. So, number one, often when we hear expectations, we're looking for some specific clues in the chart. Maybe it's a line 5, which you don't have, you're a 6-2. But the other thing is some of the sensing circuit, which you do have, and you actually have the 35. And the 35 is it's the culmination of human experience. It is this place where it's the wise and experienced traveler that wants to tell the stories. But it's actually in the gene keys, it's the shadow of hunger. So instead of being on the adventure and having the experience and um, it being a more fun sensory experience, it becomes this I have to, it's a hunger and a drive. And you actually have it in your personality Mars, which is, our personality Mars is always driving us to learn. Mars is our great teacher. So it's going to be this pattern that kind of keeps showing up because it's a lesson that we have to learn. And I wonder if there's part of this, this shift from I have to make it happen, or this expectation of, I got to do something, I got to do more, and shifting into the adventure itself. because the 35 is like, I'm having an adventure for adventure's sake. And when you sit in that place and you maybe set yourself that foundation of, I'm a manifester, so my adventure is going to be on and then off. And you have the root center, so that's an on and off again energy. You have the solar plexus, which is the wave, so it's like sometimes you'll have energy and sometimes you won't. So when you start to be on the adventure for the adventure's sake, this is where perhaps you can be more in alignment with that creative urge. Does that feel like it resonates with you?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I think it's just I need to practice that more, particularly the hermit part of my
Yeah.
profile is allowing myself to rest. I think I really struggle with that because I feel like I always need to be doing something on to the
Yeah.
next thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
even though I can feel that I'm exhausted.
Yeah. And one of the challenges for you particularly is like you have the three motors except for the sacral. So you have a lot of doing energy. It's just that the only motor that's consistent doing energy is the sacral. So when we have any of the other motors, it's inconsistent anyway. So it implies downtime. It
Mm,
implies rest. Although the root center is all about productivity, the emotional center is all about emotion, the will center is all about willfulness or your heart's desires. They all have an inconsistency to them. The root is a pulse, the emotional wave is the up down in the middle, up down in the middle type thing, and then the will center is really that it's pushed, like it has this determined will until it's done. It's like a savings account. You fill up this savings account with willpower, and then you use the willpower, then you've got to rest to refill the bank. So you have this kind of this paradox of having a lot of doing energy, but it's just not on all the time.
mm,
Now, if you're in an environment where, we know that most of the world lives this way, that you're conditioned to go, 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 do, then it's almost like what you do, especially the will center. The will center, you will almost lean on too hard. You'll use that willpower to push yourself through to do something, or you know determinedly not do something. The willpower is, it goes both
mm,
ways. Um, and that's where you end up, burning out and all that sort of thing. And you did say, like, you referred to the two in your profile, and it's in the body. So what does that mean? It's on the design side of the chart. So it is in the physical body. So the physical body needs downtime.
mm,
You actually have, just quickly looking, you have a lot of line twos in the design side. So in the body. So that does mean, it does indicate that alone time is important to you. You are also what we call on the roof. So that's between
mhm,
30 and 50 for the line six, which also implies this, it's a time for reflection, of stepping back. So there really is this balance that you're being invited into that says, yes, I have energy to move, I have energy to do. You have quite a bit of definition in your chart, and equally, your talents will never turn into superpowers unless you have time alone to spend with them.
mm,
Yeah. And I think the other thing I really wanted to come to is that 6-2 profile, coming out of a bureaucratic environment where there's rules and structures and leaders and hierarchy, and being a 6-2 profile, that plays very much like the manifestor as well. Like, manifestors need freedom, they need to do what they want to do when they want to do it. The 6-2 is very much about authenticity. It's about the
mm,
natural talents and the role model. So you really need the a lot of freedom to be your own unique self, and that starts with giving you permission to go at the pace that feels correct for you. And if that means, you know 5 days you're working, I don't know, every hour basically with 2 hours sleep, and you're so lit up, you're so excited, you're getting the stuff done, and then the next 3 weeks you have no energy for any of it, that's okay. It's about giving yourself permission to allow, when the urge is there, to follow it, and when it's not there, to just let yourself recharge and have fun.
mm. I think it's more of doing that like even particularly at this time of the year, and you hear all this business stuff about this is the most important quarter and you've got to be doing planning stuff for next year, and like my whole system is just like, I am so tired. I can't
Yeah.
even. But then you feel like I need to just keep pushing on. I need to be contacting people and trying to lock stuff in. And um, yeah, I just find it this very contradictory kind of energy in myself, because it's kind of that, like, the head and the body moving in separate directions and having to constantly give myself compassion and kindness to come back to where I'm at, rather than
Yeah.
expecting myself to be much further than where I need to be right now, when really I only have like 2 days at home. That's the space I've given myself this year to work in my
Mm.
business. So it's
Yeah.
that expectation of, what am I expecting myself to do at the
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah. And I think like what you're talking about is something that a lot of people transitioning out of one career into another, we hear this in HDX a lot, like mums being like, I should be so further on. No, you shouldn't. There is
Mm,
no should. Stop shooting all over yourself. Like, as a mother myself of an 18 and a 14-year-old, like all those hours that I was frustrated because I had to, look after the kids, I look back and go, well, thank fuck that worked out that way, because I ended up, spending a lot of time with my children, and that goes so
mm,
quickly. So it is more about being compassionate. The other thing I want to talk to is, you're right. This is the quarter of the year that, sales tend to go up, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to work harder. I
mm,
know for me personally, and I'm a line three, you have that line three ness in
mm,
you as a line six. And it took me years to work out, okay, what is it? What does the back end of the year look like for me, and how does that work? And to be honest, the last thing I ever want to do is planning for next year in December. I think I've got, this week's a busy week, and then next week I've got a few things on, and then I pretty much take December and January off, like, because that's the way my energy works. And I'll do planning in January because, especially with the human design calendar, like the energy comes back around New Year's Eve, where you can start to dream again. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. What matters is your biofeedback, your authority, your strategy. And if you don't have energy for it, then there's no point trying to push or force through,
mm,
because you're never going to create A, your best work, but B, you're going to miss all the little synchronicities and the external clues. And you know being present with where you're at is so incredibly powerful, because you will take less steps to get where you want to go than if you're trying to force yourself to be someone that isn't in alignment with the truth of who you are.
mm. Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think when I've dived into your feminine success framework, that kind of work, like, that really aligns with me so much. I'm like, this is what I want to build. This is what I want to follow, which is that sense. I don't want to be the person that has to push. I want to have that sense of flexibility and freedom, and spend time with my kids and work, and be able to do other things and do things that really light me up, and have space for creativity to blossom. But I guess, yeah, there's so much conditioning that I'm just continuing to kind of work through to allow that to happen, and like give myself permission for that.
Yeah. And that's the biggest key, like, especially in this year, like we're closing out this 9 year. So it's a great time to be conscious of the habits you don't want to take into the next 9 year cycle. So, perhaps this whole, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, like just letting it go. I mean, what if business for you was just following your creative urge, and you've just given me an example earlier on of, like, it was International Kindness Day, and all of a sudden the creative urge is switched off. What if business could grow and evolve like that? And, you know, we have so many models, inside HDX or Maggie, that can help you actually build a business around that, because once you have that creative urge, Everything that you created for International Kindness Day, you can turn that into an SOP, a standard operating procedure, and it's something that you can do every year. So great, awesome. That's an event. You've already got it. It's done. It's dusted. You don't have to continually reinvent the wheel. But if you follow your creative urge, then you can just ask yourself, okay, how can this be replicated? How can I use this again?
I think that's so amazing to have reflected back because it's just not something that I'm consciously aware of. And I think that's the lessons in business that I am moving through as I kind of work things out, that it can be like that. And I've got Maggie, and it's amazing, and I love working with her. But I think I get super overwhelmed because there's there's options, and of course, like, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out of it. Like, I very much understand that's how it works, but yeah, I think I just get overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't know what to do, so I just go, I'm not going to do anything. But I think it's more, yeah, just trusting when that creative urge comes up, that I know that I can make something that's really impactful
Yeah,
from it.
exactly. And I think it's also just trusting that it will show up, and I know I often think of my friend Jess Babaco, who I've had on the podcast a bunch of times. Over the years that I've known her, she's done so many different things as a manifester. And there was a long time that she judged herself. She's like, God, I have to stick to something. But the moment she stuck to something, she was bored and had no energy for it anymore. So over time, she's done a number of different things, but she has worked out the financial model. She has worked out how she can continue to grow. She has worked out ways that she can keep pivoting and changing and moving with her energy, and also building long-term wealth for things that don't take as much energy for her to do. It's just that it took her a while just to trust that her way was the best way for her. And it doesn't matter what type we are, we all need to learn that lesson. I mean, I think about my business, and even to this day, I've got a presentation. I've actually got two presentations tomorrow. And I've written the slide deck 5 times in 5 days, because and still to this day, sometimes when I've got a lot on, I'll be like, oh, I'll just get that done. But I can't, because I can't actually get it done until the energy is there to get it done. And this morning I noticed, and this is at 5 a.m., I woke up, I wasn't feeling that great. I was going to go for a walk and a swim, but I chose to stay in bed. And something in me, again, I wouldn't usually check my phone, but something in me got me to check my WhatsApp. And I had a message from the guy that's running the thing that I'm presenting at. And I'd given him the title for my talk. And he's like, he didn't like it. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm 24 hours away. Um, and instead of freaking out, because the old me would have freaked out, the new me went, okay. And I just lay there and let my mind be free. And all of a sudden, these things started popping in. Then I went to tea ceremony. All this stuff downloaded. Then I've just slowly played with Maggie, and I've put these things together. And over time, I've learned to trust it. I don't think about, oh my God, I don't have enough time to do it. What I've learned is that this is my way. This is the way I do it. It's the way I work best. There's been experiences in the past where, the last human design conference I did the slide deck, I think a month before I presented it. By the time I presented it, I remember thinking, oh, this is old, I've come so far. So the more you can trust your flow, the more you can trust that creative urge, get to know it, build a relationship with that emotional authority, making sure that no decisions are made, no judgments or criticism happen, especially in your emotional low, because you're not in a time of truth. You're in a time that you need taking care of. And to be honest, if you have a business and a little one, that's fucking hard, right? So it's actually going, you know what? The best thing for me right now is to put my feet up and have a cup of tea, and trusting that that is the most aligned thing to do for your business, because something's going to come up like International Kindness Day, and your engines, your motors, your creative urge, everything's going to switch on, and you then get to create something new, and then you never know what that might turn into.
Yeah, I love that. It's just like being open to opportunities. And I think that's the lesson that I'm learning. And particularly, like, I've created these workshops specific for primary school and high school, and I change them all the time and I adapt them, and for educators as well. But it's always, it's, then I kind of sit there, and I did a whole day of them yesterday at a school where I did 3 back-to-back workshops, and it was amazing. And then at the end of it, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if this works, and it's like that willingness to go, okay, well, maybe you can do something different, because it's, people are going to want you for what you have to offer, not this product that you have created, that, like,
Exactly.
feel like you've got to, that saying, like, flog the dead horse, like you have to, because you've spent so much time on it, that you have to continue building it, when maybe I can just go, okay, well, that was good. Maybe someone will still want that program in their school, and then maybe something else is going to come up, which is going to be
And I
better.
think this in itself is a really powerful thing to understand, is that, we want to believe that we know how things work. We just don't.
Mm.
Like this, so you've created a workshop. There is a workshop. You're also an emotional authority. So I would be making any decisions at least for 24 hours, if not a week from now. Do you know what I mean? Like, just be like, that was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure if it's where I want to be, and just leave it in the uncertainty, because it's ready to go. The moment the urge is there, it's ready to go. You're good.
Mm.
But it's also just being in that place of, okay, well, where else am I going to be guided? Where else am I going to? Where does my energy want to take me? And you have this cool pathway in your design where you have you have the 3740, which goes from the solar plexus to the will center. Then you have the 5125. And I remember this being explained to me by my mentor, and I always really loved it, because it's kind of this journey. She said it's like, it's this journey from emotional reactivity to the heart, and then up to awakening. So
Mm.
it is actually this journey that you have. And then you have the 1020. So the gate of the love of the self into the gate of the now. Um, so, like, there's this thing that sort of stands out in your design for me, that there is this journey within your energy that comes from this place of, being in potentially emotional lows or unresourceful emotions, bringing them to a place of power, rising that up to heart space, feeling, rising that up to awakening. And then through your own behavior, you can share that in stories in the moment. Like, it's this really cool kind of awakening pathway through you being you. And again,
Mm.
being a 6-2 profile, that's very much about you being you. So when we see a lot of this kind of, and it definitely is what I would say is a pattern I see in your design. Again, the moment you look outside of you for the strategy or the authority or anything like that, you're losing your power.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're losing the artfulness of who you really are. And you've got the core talent of awakening, and it's in the line 6, which is, I mean, I think the word's philanthropist, but it's very much about being the visionary. And the gate 51, yes, it's the gate of shock, but for me, it's a moment of awakening. Whatever that shock is, you're the person that's helping people say, oh shit, this isn't the end of the world. This is the beginning of something greater.
Mm.
And with the line 6, again, that's a visionary, and you're a 6-2 profile. So I suppose this is all to say that you're going to be at the cutting edge. So looking at what anyone else is doing is not going to help or serve you. It's really about staying in your manifestor lane and your uniqueness, in your natural talents, in, you know, your awakening pathway. The more you trust you and your energy and your creative urge and your emotional clarity, the more your answers will come really easily. It's just, you've got to stop searching out there for them and just trust for them to come through you.
I love that so much. And I feel like that's been such a big part of this year, particularly in the last 6 months, is learning to trust my voice, and to be authentic to myself and just to be myself and know that that's what people want and that's what people are drawn to. And that's probably my superpower as a teacher, is the fact that I can connect with people through stories and through my experience. And yeah, it's just such a great reminder to keep that really at the forefront with everything that I do when those voices and things get really loud, to just always come back to that so I can
Yeah.
continue moving forward, just being me.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. You know, the other thing is like I think the other thing that kind of stands out is you've got the 1-8. Okay. So the 1-8, this is it's individual circuitry. The one is the creative. It's so fine. Don't worry. Um, the 1 is the creative. The 8 is about, you know, contribution, but it's all about unique style. It's the way you do it. And I wonder if potentially the challenge, where you may get tripped up, and again, I would just play around with this, is that you have a lot of things that's very much about you, and you're a transpersonal profile, or you've also got um, a lot of, you know, like tribal energy. So there's this balance between, as a transpersonal profile, you're really driven by the other, you know, like how do I serve, how do I care, what do they need. But there's a lot of you being you in your design. So it's finding that balance of like, oh, hang on a second. Have I gone too much to the other? Do I need to come back to myself and realign to my uniqueness and my unique message and my unique behavior? So just being aware of that, I think, also could be helpful.
Thank you. I remember being on a call recently with you for the HDX when you were talking about the transpersonal lines in business, and this is why this stuff is so fascinating and just so useful, because it was just such a great reflection of how I operate.
Yeah.
But yeah, being more aware of that, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else that's going to make this more complete for you? Any other questions?
No, I think probably one of the biggest thing was getting tripped up on like the strategy and what I need to be doing.
Mm.
But I think it's just taking that step back and trusting that it's going to come to me, and then I can roll with it when I get
Yeah.
inspired by something.
And I think the other part just to understand is that you've already done it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, one of the things we can do, our brain is so quick to throw out the past, to throw out what we've already done. Oh, that's not it. But it's never not it. Everything is always contributing to something greater. So, you know, you've already done certain things. You've been paid. You've moved the needle forward. How that's going to play into a business that you'll ultimately grow and scale, you don't know yet. You're still in the stages of working out what your foundations are. But it doesn't mean that you're not going anywhere. It means that you're gathering information, experience, evidence. You're working out what works and what doesn't work, and that's, you know, the hardest part. I think often, from my own personal journey and working with so many entrepreneurs, the hardest part is getting started, because you're at a place where everything's so new, and although you tell yourself every day, or at least I did, that your success is inevitable, you haven't succeeded per se by your definition yet.
mm.
So when you're in that place, it's just a time that is messy, and it feels longer than it needs to be, and it never isn't. Let me be clear. It's always exactly as long as it needs to be. Um, and it feels like you're not getting anywhere. And then all of a sudden you do. And you start to take bigger strides. But it's because you're doing all the foundational work that feels often like you're just banging your head against a wall. But it's not, it's never the truth. It's always about building strong foundations.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just that redefining what success is. It's like that new
Yeah.
version of success, not what we have been taught or told or surrounded by for our whole upbringing. It's doing it a different way.
Yeah. And giving ourselves permission to define it the way we want to define it. I think about, I always wanted to be the leader, and in my advertising career, that meant being a media director. Thank God I got out of that career before I ever got that far. But, it was always about getting to the top of the tree. So I was always conscious to get promoted to the next thing, promoted to the next thing. Then when I became an entrepreneur, I was like, well, I've got to build this big business and this big team because that's what you do to succeed. And over the years, I realized I'm like, fuck that. I don't want a big team. I want a small, powerful, nimble team so we can do what we want when we want. I don't have lots of people that need taking after. I don't have to worry about office space, So my team, like the work my team gets done, it's three core plus our PR person. There's four of us in total. We do what, I don't know, like maybe 7 or 8 people do. But that's the way, when I finally define success on my terms, that's what I wanted. I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to be people managing every day. I want to work with other, self-motivated people that get a lot done in a short amount of time and that want to go to the beach or go travel or whatever. So again, everything is about actually breaking the old conditioned model and really working out, okay, well, what's true for me? What do I want to create? And being open to the fact that we might not see anyone else that has what we have, but there'll be little key things. I remember seeing Lisa Messenger when she was still doing the magazine, and then the magazine went under, and then she brought it back, and she never brought the whole team back, the whole business back. She did it with contractors and consultants and all that sort of stuff. And I remember thinking in that moment, I'm like, oh, that's the model I want. I don't ever want to have a huge team. But, I was already leading that way, and the universe gave me evidence that it was possible. My brain was like, oh, sweet, I can do it on my own terms. So again, just be in that place of, oh, I get to write the rules and follow the creative urge, allow your emotional wave to move, enjoy your children, and trust that, you are getting and putting down the foundations that one day will build something that feels really fulfilling to you.
Yeah, it definitely already does. When you really do sit back and look at what I have accomplished in a year, whilst still teaching, whilst being a mum to 2 little people, I now have a podcast which is getting a lot of love, and that just came out of nowhere. Like, that was brought to me. Yeah, I am really, really proud. So it's just running my own race. It is
Yeah.
my thing, and I'm the one that gets to choose, and I think I love that so much. And like I said before, it's also really terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, that's what I want. I want to be able to create what works for me and my family, and yeah, just live a life of being inspired by what I want to do and what
Yeah.
impact I want to have on the world and
Yeah.
myself, really.
And ultimately, that's giving everyone else permission to do that. And, I will end up by saying, like, it is terrifying being out the front. And that's why we have HDX. It's this community of visionaries. We're all out the front, kind of scratching our head, going, I don't know. But we've got each other. And I think that that's the important thing. There aren't any, we're not going to find what we've found in the past, these leaders out the front that are really like, yeah, we've got this, we can get on this train. It's not like that now. Everything's decentralizing, everything's becoming so much more congested, yet so much more varied. And this is a great time. We just have to have the courage to trust our own inner authority and our own power, and know that it's probably not going to look like anything it's looked like in the past, but that makes it even more powerful. So yeah, you're doing great. And just be in your own team, like changing industries, starting a business, having 2 little ones, that's a lot. So taking care of you should be the priority.
Thank you. Yeah, I need more of that.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening along at home. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now.